Good afternoon. My name is Devatris Lindsay, and I'm one of the attorneys in the Consumer Division for the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our esteemed presenter, Lady March-Goldwire. Lady March-Goldwire is an advocate for small business and entrepreneurial initiatives. She began her career in construction project management in 2000. She is licensed as a general contractor, and that took place in 2006. Having launched several businesses over the past 2 decades, Lady has garnered a wholehearted understanding for the ups and downs of starting and sustaining a small business. In 2009, Lady became a self-certification vendor for the Small Business Administration. She began educating and assisting women with obtaining women-owned small business and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business designations in an effort to increase visibility and contract awards granted to them. Additionally, Ms. March-Goldwire was hands-on in championing those inclusionary practices most beneficial to North Florida's JSEB, which stands for Jacksonville Small and Emerging Businesses, and disadvantaged business owners. Licensing and certification of small, minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses is her strong suit. Lady March-Goldwire is native to Palm Beach County and is a self-proclaimed social inequity watchdog. Ms. March-Goldwire remains vigilant in her pursuit of those partnership opportunities which offer favorable positioning of diverse persons and businesses within our Tri-County area. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Lady March-Goldwire.
Thank you, Devatrice, for that introduction. And I am super excited to get the opportunity to converse with you all today and have some very, very necessary conversation about a topic that I believe doesn't get enough attention with regard to our homeowners and community residents when they are considering remodeling, renovating, or building new construction. Um, Permitting is something that is uber important to the construction process. It's a requirement in most municipalities. There are processes associated with obtaining permits. There's a level of understanding that should be had when an individual is looking to hire a contractor. And so today I'm hoping to present some information that I think would be most helpful with the long term goal of becoming a resource for the Legal Aid Society here locally, where these issues come up for your homeowners, your residents. With that being said, I won't stall out too much on me. Again, thank you for the introduction. I would love an opportunity to get someone to help me kind of move the slides along, and I'll take you through the presentation. And if at the end there are any questions for me, I am looking forward to answering those questions. My understanding is that Ms. Lindsay, there will be an opportunity for to have this recorded and then ultimately uploaded to some other social media forums. So I guess without further ado, we'll move forward. I see the slide here of me, and it just kind of talks a little bit about my background. Miss Lindsay has gone through that. But the next slide, the one that we're on now, talks about permitting. What is a permit and why we need them? I'm going to read through some of this, but also ad lib quite a bit throughout the presentation just to give you some filler information relative to what we're talking about here today. So, what is a permit and why do we need them? A building permit is an official approval issued by the local government agency that allows you or your contractor to proceed with a construction or remodeling project on your property. The permit ensures that the project plans are going to comply with the local standards and building codes, all of the zoning and land use construction requirements. The standards are intended to ensure the safety of current and future owners and occupants, and also to provide enforcement of zoning and land use policies. What I will tell you about permits, in addition to what I've read to you, is that permits give you that hedge of protection with regard to the warranty on the work being done to your property, ensuring that things are done according to plan. They trigger inspections and they trigger a third set of eyes on the property in and during a process called plan review. Plan review is something that when you ask for a permit by way of permit application to your local building department, the plans, the application is then rerouted or handed around to individuals who are licensed in the area that you are applying for to review the application and any subsequent documents, plans, or specifications to ensure that the work being proposed, the work that you are asking for permission to complete, does in fact comply and meet current code. Next slide, please. When are permits required? A building permit is required for any person or business to construct, alter, repair, or demolish any building or structure. There are some exceptions. In certain circumstances, a building permit must be obtained by a licensed contractor or owner builder. The fact of the matter is, a building permit must always be obtained by a licensed contractor or owner builder unless the building department has granted you an exception. Most building departments have a list of projects or construction activities that don't require permits. One of the good places to locate that list, and I'll do my best to uh, forward a copy of the PDF that kind of lays that out, is Palm Beach County's references to what requires a permit and what does not. Typically, replacing a light switch, replacing a toilet, replacing interior doors, painting on the inside of your home. Nominal upgrades such as that typically will allow you to proceed without having to obtain a permit from the building department. However, for the things that you are unsure about requiring a permit, I always encourage the homeowner, property owner to place a call to the local building department and make the ask. Additional items requiring permits are mechanical repairs or upgrades, electrical and plumbing work, which may be included with the building permit and require a separate sub permit. Your building department, local municipality, and or your contractor or subcontractor should be well versed in his area of expertise and give you the ins and outs on whether or not the work that he is, or he or she, I should say, may be engaging in, whether or not it requires a permit. It is illegal to build structures without a permit, and cities often apply daily penalties such as fines until you have the appropriate permits for the project. I know in Miami-Dade, fines can go up to 10 times the value of the permit. And so, there are fees assigned to a permit based on the valuation of the work being proposed. Fees are assessed to the application based on a percentage. Oftentimes, if you're found to be in violation or having had done work without a permit, I've seen the fees be up to a multiple of 10. Our local standard rule typically ranges anywhere from double to four times the fee here in Palm Beach County. Next slide. Who can get a permit? So there are two means by which to acquire a permit if you are a property owner. Specifically, if you are a homesteaded property owner, the property is not listed in the name of an entity. This is a property that you have declared as your home. homestead, you can apply for what is known as an owner builder permit. So it allows you to actually be your own contractor outside of an agreement with a separate contractor to complete some of the items or projects that you need to at or on your property. An owner builder, or as the owner builder of a property, you get the opportunity to act as your own contractor, even though you do not have a license, and you can do this without penalty. You must perform or supervise the construction yourself. The county ordinances require that all recipients possess some technical knowledge to personally supervise all of the permitted work. In some counties, some municipalities, owner builders are required to test to ensure that they meet a certain skill set with regard to completing the work. That is a practice that is primarily carried out in Broward and Miami-Dade. They don't really do that as much here in Palm Beach County in relation to having the homeowners demonstrate that they have construction knowledge or experience. They will allow you to sign an affidavit that indicates that you will be responsible for the work being done to your property. That affidavit will indicate that you do not intend to sell the property or lease the property within 1 year. The logic behind that is if you were to get an owner builder's permit and escape or get around, circumvent having to use a contractor, they would like to see someone live in the property as opposed to transfer work done without a contractor over to a new owner. I think the mindset is that if it was going to go wrong, it would do so within a year. And once you get outside of that window, one could assume that all is well. An owner builder may be held liable and subjected to serious financial risk for any injury sustained by an unlicensed person or his or her employees while engaging in owner builder work. So essentially, what that means is if you hire as an owner builder a contractor or a handyman or someone to complete the work for you and they are injured, and you don't have the appropriate policies in place to cover said injuries, you could find yourself in a very, very precarious position. And that's one of the reasons why most municipalities encourage homeowners to hire contractors out, because contractors are required by state law to carry policies, workers' comp policies, general liability policies that would protect against such travesties while engaging in construction work. As an owner builder, they will allow you to build or improve a one or two family residence or build or improve a commercial building that you own, so long as the cost of the improvements are less than $75,000 in value. So if you're a property owner and it is not your homesteaded property, it's commercial property, but you can demonstrate that you do, in fact, own the property. Some building officials, some municipalities will allow you to secure owner builder permits in lieu of hiring a contractor, again, as long as the work that you're doing to that property does not exceed $75,000. Now, if you choose not to be an owner builder and you go the preferred route of hiring a contractor, what you should know about your contractor is the following. Contractors are required to be licensed with either the county or the state. Typically, there is a registry and or link that you can go to ensure that the contractor is actively licensed, and you can also check for any disciplinary action against said license. The contractor has no limit, or if you hire a contractor, then there is no limit as to when the property can be leased or sold, unlike the restriction that we talked about with the owner builder scenario. Outside of that, as the homeowner, you're not required to supervise the work being done when you hire out a contractor and they pull the permits. Again, because the logic is that the contractor has the necessary experience and has the ability to supervise his or her own team, and that they will perform in accordance to current building code. Contractors are typically experienced when they have licenses. They go through certain testing protocol. They are mandated to stipulate what their experience has been in order to secure the license. And so that in and of itself gives you an added layer of protection. Contractors are pretty well versed in their area of expertise, and there are several types of contractors. You have a general contractor, which has the ability to build both residential construction and commercial construction. There are no limits as to the heights of stories that they can build up to. A building contractor has the same ability. He can build commercial and or residential, but there is a limit as to how high he or she can build, and that limit is maxed out at 3 stories. Residential construction can only build residential structures. They are limited to I don't think there's a limit on 2 stories with them, depending on the layout. I've seen some residential contractors build 2.5 stories. It's not very popular here, the half story layout, but you get an idea as to what you are looking for when it comes to your contractors and structural contractors. Then outside of that, you have several specialty contractors and contractors who specialize, electrical contractors, mechanical contractors who would do your AC and some plumbing. You have plumbing contractors and a few others in between. But again, if you have the ability, you should always be able to request the license number from your contractor, the individual that you enter into an agreement with. And you should be able to look them up on a statewide or county website to confirm that they, again, are active and in good standing. Next slide. Where do I get a building permit? Permitting is specific to the state, county, and local standards. Um, the ones are the individual municipalities that require you to go through um, their county or municipality. The property, it's all going to be based on where the property is located. Typically, if you are able to ever look up your property on the property appraiser list here in Palm Beach County, the first 2 digits of the property tax ID identification number tip is what identifies what county you need to visit in order to secure your permit. So, for example, for those individuals living in unincorporated Palm Beach County, the 2 digits will be 00. Um, 08 is Boynton. West Palm Beach, I believe, is 72, and Riviera Beach starts with 5-6. But when you look up your property on the property appraiser, if you're able to identify the first 2 numbers of that um, real estate ID number, that will tell you where you should be. There is a matrix that goes along with that. It will identify the county where you should go to obtain your building permits. You can find all of the permitting information for your project by using the links that I indicated here. Um, and again, by referencing the first 2 digits on your property ID number, and again, that will put you in the space you need to be where contacting the appropriate municipality is concerned. Next slide, please. How do I get a permit? So there are several steps, and they're a little different municipality to municipality. But what I've listed here is typically the overall routine for securing a permit. You would begin by downloading a permit application. These permit applications are required to be listed on each municipality's website. So every municipality, there are 39 municipalities including unincorporated Palm Beach County. Here in Palm Beach County, there are 39. Each of them are required to have on their website a means for you to be able to download an application that goes along with the requirements and requests that that municipality has for asking for a permit. You're going to complete the permit application. It is going to ask you for your information as the homeowner or property owner. It is going to require that the contractor indicate his information, license number, address, and points of contact. You are also going to have to list on that application the value of the work being done. That is very important that you list it and that you understand that if you understate that value, most people, most contractors will attempt to do so because they recognize that your permit fees are based on this total number. If you understate that value, just know that you are at risk of the local building official for that municipality comparing the work that you are proposing to the industry standard. And the building official does have the ability to adjust the valuation on the permit so that it meets industry standard and that your fees will be assessed based on that. On the application, you're going to be expected to indicate what type of permit you're requesting. Is it a building permit, a roofing permit, an electric permit, a plumbing permit? You're going to want to indicate when listing the application or ensure that at least your contractor indicates a description of the work. The city needs to know what it is that you're asking permission to do to your property, and they're going to want to ensure that you attach to that request any pertinent plans or drawings that may be required, any specifications for the product that you are using, and any additional documents that may be asked of you as you go through the plan review process. They are going to want to know the names of all of the points of contacts by way of your architect, your engineer, again, yourself, and the contractor. The forms will need to be signed, and in most cases, if the value of work being completed exceeds $2,500, they are going to want to ensure that that application has been notarized. One thing that I would like to stress to homeowners asking for or looking for a contractor, never enter into a contract or agreement or subcontract agreement that asks you to pay 50% deposit at contract signing. You should never, as a homeowner, pay cash or pay more down to enter into an agreement than the percentage of the work completed. At most, the only thing that you should be paying up front is perhaps your permit fees that will need to be paid directly to the city and or enough money to secure materials for the job and mobilize for the job. I can't tell you how many times I've seen individuals write a check for cash, made out to cash, for more than 50% of the project, pay for the work in full before they have permits, before they have the work completed, or give a contractor more money than the amount of work that's been done on the project. That is a huge no no, and it's not something that is even allowable for individuals who are licensed as state contractors here in the state of Florida. So if you have the ability to avoid giving more than an initial 10 or 20%, do that. Make sure that you go back and verify the license numbers, make sure the individuals are in good standing, and make sure that you check disciplinary action. Just because you find something on the license, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a good contractor. I've been in business 20 years, and there have been times where a contract me as the contractor and the homeowner didn't see eye to eye. There's nothing preventing a homeowner from filing a complaint, but a responsible contractor will see that complaint through. They will try to resolve the issue, and then they should be forthcoming in talking to you about said issue should you mention it to them, so that they feel comfortable moving forward. You feel comfortable moving forward as a homeowner when closing out the agreement to engage them in work. Next slide. The second leg, after you've gotten the permits application, the permit application completed, you're going to obviously want to visit the building department. Now, in the midst of a global pandemic, most municipalities have made the adaptations to take the building application online. A lot of them have made the accommodation that will allow you to upload any of your plans and all of your forms online as well. But in the event that is not the case, you will visit the building department and you will drop off the application. You're going to submit the application with any required forms and plans. Again, the application needs to be signed by all parties unless they advise otherwise at the building department. Most building departments will require you to pay at least an upfront fee in exchange for a processing number that will eventually turn into your permit number. You'll have to wait for the city to conduct a plan review that could take anywhere up to 1 to 2 days to 3 to 4 weeks. For most projects that require plan review, what I can tell you for single family residents, most reviews should be done within 30 days according to the state statute. You want to visit the building department in the city that you'll be doing the work in. I can't tell you how many times a lot of people believe that they live in West Palm Beach only to find out that the two numbers or two digits on their property ID indicate 00, and they need to actually get their permits and permission from permits from unincorporated Palm Beach County. So do what you can, do your due diligence to ensure that you're pulling the permit or requesting the permit from the appropriate municipality. Your contractor should be well aware of that if you're going the contractor route, and should be able to assist you in that matter. When the building department contacts you to tell you that the permit is ready, if you've used a contractor for your project, they are going to require, if the work is over $2,500, that you complete what is known as a notice of commencement. And what that does, it will give a contractor the opportunity to place a lien on the property. It does mandate that the contractor follow all of the rules and regulations as laid out by the Florida statute. But in the event that you fail to pay your contractor or according to your agreement, there is an opportunity based on that notice of commencement for the contractor to place a lien against the property. The issue is you cannot get around a contractor filing a notice of commencement. There is no there's nothing grave about that. It is a part of the process. In fact, the building department will not conduct its first inspection unless the contractor demonstrates that a notice of commencement has been filed. That again is putting you on notice, the contractor on notice, and the city on notice that work will be done to the property, and that it's going to be done in accordance with the rules and regulations laid out by the Florida Building Code as well as the state statute. The building department is not going to give you your permit unless you pay any remaining balances associated with the permit application. But once those are paid, they will give you the permit. At the time in which they issue you the permit, it is then and only then that your contractor should begin work. If the contractor or you yourself as an owner builder start work without having a contract in hand, you will put yourself in a position where they being code enforcement or code compliance, can cite you and issue a violation for work being done without a permit. Wait until the permit is in hand and on site prior to allowing the contractors, subcontractors, or any of the individuals that you hired to to do the work. Because if you do it prior to that, you could put yourself in a position where you trigger a code violation. I think we're getting to the end. Let me see if we've got another slide. Oh, good. Okay, so I thought so. So, this is a good time to kind of take any questions if there's some floating out there. Miss Lindsay, I don't know if your preference is to maybe have some of your viewers as they come online or later after they had an opportunity to review it. I'm going to drop my email information or you have it in the chat so that if there are additional questions, you can forward them to me, or if I can be of a resource to you guys, kind of assist throughout. But the bottom line is, I would like your viewers to understand that applying for a permit, as much as the narrative has been that it is a headache and a hassle, it is very much and should be looked at as a hedge of protection for the property owner. Typically, the permit fees will cost you about 2 to 3% of the valuation. So, for example, if you were doing a project that cost $10,000, your permit fee will likely not exceed more than $300 with the city. It makes no sense not to pull a permit and run the risk of being dinged two times the fee, three times the fee for not having gone through that process. And it also makes no sense not to utilize what the tax dollars are paying for by way of putting the plan reviewers in rotation to look over your project, review it to ensure that it meets code, and then utilizing the building inspectors when the work is being completed to give you the reassurance that the work has been done accordingly. We've all bared witness to what happened a few months ago, wherein the building toppled as a result of, work not being done according to standard, permits actually not having been applied for, inspections being bypassed. The biggest investment that most of us will make is our home, and any opportunity that you get to insure it properly, any opportunity that you get to assure yourselves and the people that will be going in and out of the house that the work being done is compliant with the code. I think as a responsible homeowner, that is something that we should all be in support of. And so I would not want any contractor that says, oh, you don't need a permit, or tries to talk you into pulling an owner building permit when they have the ability to pull the permit on your behalf, is probably not a contractor that I would be comfortable with engaging in. They're either trying to dance around liability or accountability, and that's just not where you want to be when you're investing your hard earned dollars into improving the property. I will also tell you that when buying or selling a property, purchasers are now looking to building departments to supply information as to whether or not permits have been pulled on a property before they purchase the property. They want to know that if permits have been pulled, that those permits were closed out, because if they were closed out accordingly, that means that all of the inspections were in play and that they're in a good space for taking on the property without any issues. But most importantly, you have to understand that by skipping over the steps associated with acquiring a permit, permits serve as insurance also, and you eliminate the ability to have that insurance when you skip over um, putting the permits on your property and getting the insurance, I mean the inspections. A lot of insurance companies will look for open and closed permits with regard to issuing an insurance policy, and it's difficult to sell a property that you may have done some work to and not have the appropriate permits. You add an addition onto your house. the property appraiser reflects that it's a 2-2. The realtor shows when you're attempting to sell it that it is a 3-2. And when the buyer enters into the agreement and checks the two up against each other, they don't match. It's very likely that that deal will not go through. A property owner or purchaser will go to the next property that has done what it needed to do to make sure that any additions, modifications, or upgrades were done in accordance with the code. And so there really is never a disadvantage to securing a permit. I will tell you that because of the pandemic, most building departments are. Um, overextended. It's taking a little longer than it usually does, but it's better to wait for a building department to issue you a permit and go through that process than to do the work, not secure a permit, and have to deal with the consequences on the back end. And so I just wanted to stress that I don't know how many calls you guys get with regard to unlicensed contractors, unpermitted activity, or homeowners who've maybe purchased a property and now they're running into issues from the previous owner. But this happens to be a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. Happy to share as much information as I can about, and am looking forward to being as much of assistance as I can moving forward.
Thank you very much, Ms.
You're
Goldwire. Very good
welcome.
points, all very good points and vital information. There are a few questions. If you would like to take questions now, or do you want
Yes.
all of the
No, no,
questions
no,
to be
no. No,
continued?
no. I can answer whatever questions you have, most
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, great. The first question is, you kind of covered it. What if you're incorrectly advised that no permit is needed, and you go ahead, get the work done? What are your options as far as remedies are concerned, or do you have any?
You always, the beautiful thing about life is there's always options. Some are a little bit more costly than others, but there are indeed options. So, the first thing I would do, any work that you are thinking about doing to the property, you don't have to call the building department and give them your address. You can always call your local building department and say, listen, I want to install a door to the exterior of my property. Do I need a permit? I'd like to or believe that I'm going to replace my roof. Will I need a permit? There are caveats to each of those requests. With a roof, if you're only repairing less than 25% of the roof, you won't need a permit. If it's an emergency repair to a roof, you can apply for a permit after you've done the roof. You have the responsibility of, mitigating any damages you may have. And it could be a weekend when you have a roof leak and you need to deal with it now so that it doesn't cause further damage. A building department isn't going to hold that against you. The building department is your friend, and even in some of the most adverse situations, they are always in a space to operate from the point of ensuring life safety and protecting and preserving the general welfare of the public. And so calling to ask for permission as opposed to having to go down and ask for forgiveness is definitely the headspace that I'm in. I think building departments are leaning more in the direction of leading with yes, the individuals who are inspectors, who are plan reviewers, ultimately your building officials, they are shifting in the space of understanding that homeowners don't always know, but that homeowners are getting to a point where they are a little bit more savvy and that they want to do the right thing. And so, if you can call your building department and ask whether or not you need permits, you should. Most of the websites are going to indicate what projects need permits or not. But if you have a contractor that is insisting that it's going to cost more to get a permit, you should question it. Be mindful if you enter into an agreement with a contractor and you see exorbitant fees for the permit. Permits don't cost that much. Permits are based on, and the permit fees are based on the valuation of the work being proposed. So if your contractor tells you that a job is going to be $5,000, he should not be charging you $1,000 for permits. That line item should be commensurate with the valuation and what the city is going to pay. You always have the option of having your contractor entering into a contract with your contractor, taking that contract there, and you paying the fee directly to the building department as the homeowner. And so, in the event you get a contractor, you have engaged in work, he's told you, he or she, that you don't need a permit, the work is done. If you get caught and the work is covered, the risk is that you may either have to tear it down or open it up for observation. The alternative to that sometimes is most building officials are open and amenable to having you hire an engineer and letting that engineer certify that the work has been done in accordance with the code. What I can tell you is with recent events, buildings toppling, engineers are less likely to take that risk and sign off on something that they have not seen. And so it's best to just follow the process as best you can by getting the appropriate permits, plan review, and inspections as required by the code.
Thank you.
You're
The
welcome.
next question is, what if the valuation to obtain the permit is way above the industry standard on your permit application? Will it be adjusted by the city or what will happen?
So, different municipalities look at the valuation differently. Unfortunately, with the fluctuation in material cost, that is changing, and a lot of the reason why people are seeing some adjustments in the valuation by the building official. I can tell you, I've very rarely seen building officials reduce the valuation. Most building officials will increase it because most of the city ordinances define valuation as a combination of what it costs in terms of material, plus what it costs for the labor, plus what it costs for any architectural and design plans, plus any profit and overhead, which is a bit ridiculous. It can be. Some building officials will just allow you to put labor and materials. I hear a lot of homeowners say, well, I know a friend and he's going to do the work for me. Well, the building official is still probably going to factor in what that labor would cost had you hired somebody at the standard rate. And so, what I tell people is, for example, if you say that a project that really is going to cost you $100,000 to complete, if you say it's going to cost $60,000, your permit fees are probably going to be maybe 10% of 60 is 6,000, so you may be looking at $1,800 in fees, as opposed to it being $100,000 project and that's where you are, and the fees would essentially be 2,000. There's a $400 difference in between there. It's really not worth telling the lie about and having the building official watching the project, because if he's watching it at the point that you're applying for it for valuation, these are the people that are going to be holding your hands throughout your project for inspections and whatnot. If you're coming across untruthful going into the project, in the event you need any leniency or the building official to lean discretion in your favor, I don't think that's a good way to start out. I will say this, that is coming from someone who is both a contractor and a building official. I've worked it on both sides, and so I try to find the happy medium between the two. The valuation and the permit fees being that they typically are only 2 to 3.5% of that valuation, it's not really worth the fight with the building official, because the reality is you're not going to be able to trump the decision, um, short of going to the Florida Building Commission, and you could have had your project completed already for the amount of money that you're having a conversation about.
All right, thank you once again. And the last question is, if you could create a quick checklist in order to let us know what to look for and to find a good company when you need repairs done for your home, what would be included on that checklist?
Well, I always say word of mouth. If you have a contractor or someone who's referred to you, the mere ask as to how they performed is great, um, because that gives you an opportunity to lean into being able to see their work, the quality of their work. You can lean into any experiences that the individual may have had working back and forth with that contractor. You can always ask a contractor for a list of work that they've done and ask them for references. That's great. Again, you can visit myfloridalicense.com. There is a section there, verify a license. So long as you have the license number, and a contractor should always be willing to give that to you. It should be on any vehicles that they are driving, that they advertise, any business cards that they have. You shouldn't have to go looking for their business license number or their contractor license number. You can use that to verify the license. You can look for complaints, the Better Business Bureau, for those individuals who pay for services or pay to have an accreditation listed with them. You can look for their ratings there. There are things like buildzoom.com that will allow you to type the name of your contractor and kind of see where they rank amongst other contractors in the state. So there's several different resources that you could rely on, but the most is to ensure that the contractor has a license number that you can verify, they demonstrate that they have insurance, and that they are encouraging you to pull permits.
Thank you once again.
You're
Well, that was the
welcome.
last question. That was the last question. Would you be able to provide us with your contact information in case
Yep.
anyone has any further questions?
I'm typing it in the chat now as we speak. And I think you have my personal email, but I'm sending you the business email there, and all of my office information is in the chat. Feel free to Brad Mark. You know, I cannot chew the gum and talk at the same time. Brad Marley, da, 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 da. And I'm even putting a cell number in here. I'm usually in the office all of the time, but you should be able to get me with that information there. And again, I am super looking forward to being as big of a help as I can for any of your customers or clients that come through that have run into some issues and kind of need some guidance as to how to navigate themselves outside of them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, a very
Thank
informative
you.
webinar. And thank you to everyone who attended the webinar. Everyone have a great evening and stay safe and healthy.
All
Take
right.
care.
We'll talk soon. Bye bye.
Goodbye.